So, I wanted to mention a story that happened to me in nursing school that's rather important in regards to my previous video about what is going on to the American nurses. Um, Nursing school was very hard. It is for anybody. I went to a school, not some big Ivy League. I went to nursing school later in life. And so I went to a community college in Chicago. Corrupt as hell, but there was a couple of very good professors. But the rest, they're all tenure. It's like a cult with them. And after my first year, and let me, before I say this, part of what's important to colleges, which is why I don't understand why there's all of these nurses failing NCLEX. NCLEX is the state board, regardless of what state you're in. That's the state board exam, what it's called, NCLEX. If there's not a certain percentage of nurses, no matter what state, that pass NCLEX on the first exam, then it goes against the school they went to and they can lose their accreditation. So that's why I'm even more curious about what's going on. But then it seems like our whole country is being restructured in so many ways that they likely don't care about that accreditation anymore because everything is emerging into that global commie system. So it's really important to them. And when I was in nursing school 12 years ago, there was a nurse or a professor that I got on her bad side. And it didn't take much. Part of going to nursing school is you have to win over your teachers. It really annoyed me because they could make or break you. And they like to weed out. So they wanted to weed out anybody that they saw that could be possibly somebody that would go to NCLEX and possibly fail on their first attempt. And so if they thought that you would fail, they would do everything they could to make sure that you didn't complete nursing school, really, because they didn't want to risk losing their accreditation. So I was a risk to them because I did great in clinicals, but I struggled at times with the tests. I mean, I made it through, I graduated, and I passed NCLEX on my first exam. But after my first year of nursing school, and I guess you would call it was the end of my first year exam, I got a call, not knowing what my score was, got a call from my professor at 8 o'clock at night saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't pass your exam. You won't be able to continue in the nursing program." And I'm like, wait, hold up here. I don't get to see the exam. I don't get to know I don't even get to look at it. No, that's not how it works. I'm sorry, you'll just have to take the entire first year of nursing over again without getting to see the test, without knowing anything I got wrong, just a phone call. And so I thought, this isn't right. And first of all, I was not in a position to where I could repeat the first year over again either financially. Like they don't think about any of this. It's nothing to these people to just end a career and I've seen that throughout my career in nursing. Unfortunately, it's a cutthroat profession. Anyway, so she just hangs up and my whole world crumbled down because this was my means of making a living. I had recently been divorced, and this could not be happening. And I wasn't wanting any special accommodation as far as push me through anyway, but I at least wanted to see the test. I wasn't just going to take this professor who had it out for me anyway, her word for it. And I'd never known a teacher that wouldn't let you at least see the test, see what you got wrong. So I fought it. I didn't get very far at first, and then I had all summer to fight it, and I didn't think I would get anywhere. And then I went to an alderman that was in the district I lived in, and I asked him for help. And so he had known somebody that knew somebody, kind of thing. And I said, look, I'm not asking for any special favors here. I'm just asking, at least give me if they won't let me see the test, then give me another test. Give me a different teacher's exam for that year and let me take it again, because it's not fair for me not to just get a phone call and not see what I got wrong. And he thought that was reasonable. So he made some phone calls, and so they were able to talk to the school. All the professors were angry with me after this. So the agreement was I would take a different teacher's test. I came in one day during the summer and took a different test, and they scored it right there, and I passed it. And so it wasn't like I got any special privileges. I showed that I knew the material and I passed it, so I was able to continue on. So that ended up creating a bunch of nightmare for a lot of that cult professors, because not all of them, the really good ones and the ones that people liked, they weren't in that cult, but there was very few of them. But then the next year, every professor I had just was really nasty to me and was just looking for any way they could go at me. And I'm just trying to get through. This was like, I'm not one of these young girls I'm in school with. I'm middle-aged, and I needed to have a skill, a career to take care of myself. So I got through it, and I went and passed my NCLEX. And luckily I did have at the school, I have to say, the dean and the vice president of the college really looked out for me. I think maybe because of the alderman, I don't know, but they were very fair with me. I was never asking for anything. I didn't want to earn something. I didn't want to get something I didn't earn, but I also didn't want to just take a test and never be told what I got wrong. So they didn't expect me to pass NCLEX. So when on my first, my state boards on my first try, and I did pass it, and I went over to that school the next day and showed the dean, and because I'm like, see, you didn't have to worry about me affecting your accreditation. So it's a rather cutthroat profession, and the schooling is hard enough, and yet because of these professors and their tenure, they just do whatever they want, and there's nothing anybody can do to them. And if you just look at them the wrong way, and you're like on their list the rest of your schooling. On top of that, I experienced a lot of racism, but I don't carry on about this because I let it go. I mean, everybody makes such a big deal about, especially now, about all this bullshit about systemic racism. I actually they brought in some Obama person. I forget her name, but she was like the head of the nursing program. And she was African American. And I had to go and talk to her one day, and she would not even look me in the eye. She was rude, she was condescending, and she said, well, everybody has a story, Bethany. And I said, yeah, but I'm the only one that's going to advocate for my story. So I experienced the reverse racism stuff, but you let it go. Some people are racist, whether they're white or black. This was before everybody was carrying on about racism. But this woman was clearly racist because of the color of my skin, and likely because that cult professor, those professors. But regardless, then I did graduate, and I did pass my state boards. And so what is concerning me right now is the fact that it is hell to get through nursing school. And then to go and have all of these nurses failing. And this nurse that I work with, she's been working as an LPN for a while. She knows her stuff. I mean, she's fully independent. I totally can depend on her. I've worked long enough to know the nurses, or people that if I work with that I need to keep an eye on, that she's not one of them. She knows her stuff. and she passed with A's in nursing school. So it doesn't make any sense that this is happening to her. And it doesn't make any sense that this is happening to others. And this is a direct result of the corruption at the American Nursing Credentialing Center. And that's your board. That's who license you. But the nursing state boards are corrupt too. And yet it's all to do with wanting to destroy America. And yet this company, Medliant, that I mentioned in my other video, that's helping all these international nurses. They're going to pay for everything. They'll even pay for them to take NCLEX and make sure they pass 90%. Those are people that aren't even helping, like this girl that I work with, that's just trying to get by and has a wedding coming up. And I absolutely know that she passed that exam. She was an A student. There's no reason she wouldn't have. And she's done so much studying, and yet if you keep failing like that, it's going to take a toll on you. You invested everything into this career, and she's somebody that cares. She's a good nurse that way. And this is just wrong. It's wrong for these associations, for the American Nurses Association. This is why I call these people commies, because they've aligned with everything that is against this country. They're not even trying to help the American nurses. Like, what about these nurses that aren't passing? Why are you Americans, you Americans trying to help all these international nurses come in? You're willing to help them to the point of getting a green card. You'll make sure they pass 90%. You'll pay for all of it. This girl, every time she goes back to take her NCLEX, she has to pay for it. That's expensive. And this didn't really surprise me, because I mentioned on my Nurse Bethany channel in another video how they always want you in education. Magnet does. And so they want you to get your specialty exam. And I mentioned how many years ago I took my specialty exam for psychiatric nursing, and I didn't pass it. It was very much like the state board exam. But the problem was, where I noticed that no, something's not right here, is that it always does. Everybody knows that multiple choice, it comes down to two answers. It's between the two answers, and you have to critically think about which one that is the right one. But with all the questions on the specialty exam, no matter how much I broke it down, it always could be either or, because there wasn't enough background information in the question. So I thought, this is such a scam, because it's like $400 that I paid for that, and then I'm out of that. And then what they do is and they know you're, for NCLEX and for that specialty exam I took, you're on a camera the whole time. So they know if you're American, they know if you're white, you have to fill out all that. So if we have a bunch of, because we do have racists, and the racists are your American Nurses Credentialing Center. It's your American Nurses Association. I've mentioned it in so many videos. It's all those people that are aligned with the UN that are the racists. They support trafficking, even if they don't know it. They're supporting trafficking by aligning with the UN, whether it's for exploitation of sex or it's labor trafficking. You can't tell me American Nurses Credentialing Center doesn't know about all this. They absolutely do. They're the ones that give you your license. So when you go and you take the test, there's a camera on you the whole time. If they wanted to make sure there was a shortage of nurses, then the best way you do it is make sure that a bunch fail. And then say, oh, we don't have enough nurses. At the same time, they, for many years now, have been pushing nurses out. And then what they've done is and I'm travel, and a lot of nurses have gone to travel because they're fed up with the hospital systems. But I couldn't understand why, when the hospital CEOs are so cheap and it's always about their money and budgets, why they were paying travel. but they wouldn't go out of their way to keep permanent staff. Well, they want to get rid of permanent staff. That's why they've been staffing so poorly. They drive nurses nuts. They end up leaving. I've seen it at so many places. They deliberately want to burn the American nurses out. Then they bring in agency and travelers. And so they do that for the interim, which now, where I'm at currently, they want to get away from agency and travel because they have to pay them more. And so they've decided they want to get away from that. You know why? Because they have, as I posted on Safe Chat and Parlor, they have 1,000 a month nurses coming in. What was it called? Medical migration. It's really medical trafficking of these people, these foreign nurses. And so they're ready to bring those in. And Trump, and I posted this, had actually during his administration, he was actually making it more about the American nurse, about us being placed before these international nurses. But the Biden administration isn't on board. Of course, your hospital CEOs aren't, because they want to create a system where it's all foreign nurses and they're not going to pay them much. And then it's all about money with them. That's why they're the worst scumbags of all. Maybe not the worst, but when it comes to money, I've never seen people more disgusting. Every nurse knows it. It's why I say every nurse is tired of hearing about the budgets. We just are. There's been a ton of ways that nurses have made suggestions about how you can help save money, but they don't care about that because they've always been these globalists on board with this agenda for a long time. So they knew this was coming. So the whole reason to have, there's so many hospitals, all of them are using travel and agency because they don't have to pay benefits to them. They know their contract will end in like 13 weeks and they can renew it if they want, but they're going to bring in all these international nurses, and then the hospital CEOs will get even more money. And they're doing it at the cost of these young nurses that have worked so hard to get this license, and then they just keep failing. I mean, to fail 8 times is ridiculous. So this is total corruption going on. It's absolute corruption. And these people at American Nurses Credentialing Center, at American Nurses Association, anybody aligned with the UN, they know what's going on. That's why I don't trust any of them. That's why I don't trust the science, period, because of everything they're on board with. I've seen too much since I've entered nursing that I know better. I know how corrupt it is. I've said before, they keep the worst kind of people. And because this girl that I work with is such a good nurse, it doesn't surprise me that they would make sure to fail her. I'm sure that's what's happening. After you finish the exam, they give you this printout sheet. You don't get to see what answers you got wrong. It's just a percentage of different areas, community nursing, cardiac nursing, and it says what your percentage was that you need to work on, but it doesn't show what questions you need to work on. And I asked this girl, I said, what area were you failing the most in? She goes, there was no rhyme and reason to it. It was all of it. And that doesn't make any sense. She was an A student in nursing school, and that's hard. I never was an A student in nursing, and I passed NCLEX. So I think they play with these exams, just like they did when I took the specialty exam, because you don't ever get to see the actual exam and find out what was the answer to the question. How convenient, right? Just like they did to me in nursing school. So all of this needs to change. All of these people need to be investigated. The American Nurses Credentialing Board should be completely eliminated. And people can say, oh, well, then how would nurses get their credentialing license? Well, you know what? They're not giving them except to international nurses, apparently. But this nurse also, in closing, I'm going to say this. This nurse said to me, she goes, you know, I've been an LPN for a long time, and before that she was a CNA. She knows her stuff. She's totally independent. I totally depend on, I depend on her many times. I mean, that's how good she is. And yet, she's like, they don't look at your experience. And they don't, because they're racist. If they decide you're an American, there all these people, all the American Nurses Association, the credentialing board, Magnet, anybody aligned with the UN, they are racist towards Americans, whether you're black, white, Hispanic, that's who they're racist against. They're using our tax dollars to pay for all these foreign nurses to come in. They're going to house them. We're paying for it. They're going to get them green cards. They're going to make sure they pass NCLEX while they completely disregard the American nurses in this country. These people have been involved in criminal activity. And these agencies that want to act like, oh, we're just an international job placement place. No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're trafficking. It's just a good medical migration of people. You're putting them in housing. You're doing all of this stuff. You're coercing them. And then you'll tie them and chain them to that hospital. And that hospital will chain them because you'll hold that green card over their head. It's total trafficking. It's total coercion. And people need to raise hell about it. They need to speak up about it because this should not be happening to Americans in the United States of America.